This is going a lot differently than I thought it would. In the best way. Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I follow your Instagram. I listen to podcasts. I understand it's like a holistic approach, but I did not think I'd be on here crying. Like, I really didn't think so.
Welcome to the Engineer Podcast. That's engineer with a Jen, because I'm your podcast host, Jen. This is your space to integrate your soul with your STEM career. The purpose of this platform is to teach stressed STEMs how to have self-care, explain all the ways that STEM is spiritual, interview those who switched from STEM to a more soul-centered career field, and to document my decision in becoming a soul-purpose life coach. Now follow me out of the fog and into your future. Let's listen in. Hello, everybody! Welcome to the Engineer Podcast. Today's episode is all about processing insecurity as a female freshman in engineering with Naomi. So, if you've been following me on Instagram, you know that I've been offering a free one-on-one session with me, and today's episode is an example of that. Naomi signed up for a free session with me, and that is exactly what you will listen to. So given that this is a coaching call, I do want to set the disclaimer now that there is a lot of moments of dead space, because when I hold space for a client, I like to give them the time and the space to really process what they're going through and to really listen to them without rushing and just ensuring that I'm as gentle as possible. So just to let you know, no, your audio is not messing up. Yes, there are sets of 10, 15, I don't know how many seconds where there is just me holding space. Now, if that's weird for you, I would suggest that you actually watch this on YouTube. In that case, you can watch her process. You can watch me hold the space so that the silence that you hear has a purpose to it while you're experiencing it audially, if that's a word. Well, I just want to go through the top main points that you are about to listen to in this session. 1, we help Naomi process insecurity, hence the title. And I take her through a emotional processing model that my own coach has taken me through many, many times in the last year and a half, 2 years that I've been working with her. And it is genuinely life-changing, because I'm sure you can relate to this in a lot of ways. I'm sure your emotions have been invalidated in some way, shape, or form, where it's like, ooh, you can't be that emotional because then you're dramatic. Or you can't have that emotion because then that means something's wrong in your life. And you try to fix it and you try to change it, when really that fixing and that changing is coming from a state of being critical, of being judgmental, and no one has ever healed anything from being a critic or a judge. So what I instead offer to Naomi is to allow her emotion and her feeling to exist exactly as it is, to really be present to it, witnessing it, noticing it, allowing it to be there, and doing nothing about it. Because if we do nothing about it, we are telling our brain that it is safe to go through insecurity, that it's safe to go through a little bit of fear, a little bit of overwhelm. And it isn't something that we have to run away from or avoid, but our body has everything we need to actually process it. So that was one of the most profound aspects that we take her through, which I think happens in the first 20-25 minutes. Then the latter 20-25 minutes is us really understanding the insights that she received from the emotional processing, the integration period of what she just went through, and how she'll carry it forward past the session. Now, I definitely want to go over with you her testimonial of this session, and full disclaimer, again, I might get emotional reading it because when we stopped recording and we were still chatting with each other on the call, she literally told me something along the lines of Jen, this is your calling. And to just hear someone say that to you, so expect me to be emotional too. On the emotional processing episode, duh. Okay, let me read to you her testimonial of this session that we're about to get into. Jen is easily one of the most accepting I have ever come across, and I instantly felt that our session was a safe space. She gave me the space to process my emotions with no judgment and to talk candidly about my struggles with comparison while studying engineering. My biggest insight was the emotional processing model that Jen guided me through. Rather than neglecting or avoiding my emotions like I was doing before our session, Jen gave me such a powerful tool of actually learning how to experience and feel my emotions fully. I really hope that she gets to do this kind of session on an even larger scale in the future, because this has the capacity to change the world of STEM. When she wrote this, and I digested it for the first time, I almost just kind of ran past it. And then when I really sat with it, I was like, she's telling me that this can change the world. Like, if I really sit with that, oh, I can't. Okay. I enjoyed her providing personal examples during the session, as it allowed me to realize that not only are my feelings and thoughts valid, but they are also so normal. Going forward, I now have the tools to practice being more compassionate towards myself and to acknowledge my feelings fully. Y'all, this was one session, okay? Can you imagine if this was the type of container that you got to sit in once a week while you went through your STEM education, or while you were going through your entry-level engineering or STEM career? Like, this is exactly why I hold this space. This was one session, and look at how profound that result was. And I just, again, I'm going to say it in her words. This is my calling, okay? And I really just want to advocate for the fact that I want nothing more than to continue holding this space for other women in STEM, in engineering. It means so much to me. It's obviously so personal. And I just want to invite you in, if you resonate with this, if you see yourself wanting to work with a coach, whether that's me or not, but I also want to invite you to work with me. And I am accepting applications to work with new clients, and I am offering a intro offer of 4 sessions in a package for you to see what it's like to work with a coach for about a month. And then if you want to upgrade to a longer set, maybe your entire semester, that's always also available. So anyway, why don't we go ahead and jump into this episode, and I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, so also make sure to chat with me on Instagram. All right, let's get into it.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. How are you? How's your day been?
I'm good. It's been a day. I had the day off work, so I've just been resting. It's been nice.
Nice. Yes, I love hearing that. Thanks so much for signing up, for trusting me to be your coach today. Have you ever been in a coaching container before, coached, anything similar?
I've had a couple mentors before, but not coaching.
Okay, awesome. Oh, I'm so grateful that I can give you this experience. And yeah, I'm really excited. I have your survey here, and I thought we could just kind of go over it a little bit together. So you are a freshman, right?
Yeah, I just finished first year.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What school are you going to? So you're in Ireland?
Yeah, I'm in Dublin, Trinity College, Dublin.
Oh, that's amazing. And so you're general engineering.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how do you feel like that first year has gone for you?
I think it was very different to what I thought it'd be like. Like I went to all girls Catholic secondary school, so like I really, like, the only STEM subjects I had were the 3 sciences, and I never got to like actually experience any sort of engineering experience in any capacity apart from coding, which I quickly figured out I didn't like. So coming into first year and like being exposed to like so many different streams, and I was like, wow, this is really technical. I did not realize how practical this degree would be. It was an experience for sure. I feel like the first semester I struggled a lot with like the balance aspect of it, and like not being too hard on myself, and like giving myself the grace to understand that this is the first time that I've ever come across things like this. But then the second semester, I got it down good. Second semester was good. I had found my footing, so I felt a bit more grounded. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I love that. And just out of curiosity, are you able to go like in person or are you still online?
Yeah, well, I'm in person. I've been in person since I started. So
Okay, that's great. I'm glad that you're getting that experience. I'm sure it makes a huge difference. So I do have that something that you wanted to be coached on today and get some help on is comparison.
yeah.
Can you let me know an experience that you've had with comparison this past year?
I think even just as I was saying, like the when I came from and then coming into college and like having to see that there was just everyone's different. We all have different experiences, but it was like I felt really behind in a sense because we would be
Mm.
learning about different things in class and people like, oh, I've already done like internships on that. And I'm like, I have no idea what we're talking about. It was just stuff like that. And I just kind of felt like, did I start like a bit later than everyone? And then to add on to that, I am quite young for having been a freshman, at least in Ireland. And so it was just kind of like for a bit, I was like, I feel like I'm not on the same level as them in a sense. But like
Mm.
that's okay because that is why we're there and I am there to like learn new things. So I'm slowly getting over it. But then this summer I sort of kicked back in, which is when I messaged you, seeing everyone doing internships. And I'm like, I'm just working a regular job. And everyone's out here doing an internship. It's
I
just like
see.
that.
Yeah, so it sounds like what triggered this thought again was seeing other people in an internship versus yourself not in one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the emotion that comes up for you when you're thinking, am I behind? Am I going fast enough? Am I
Mhm.
making the right decision by working rather than doing an internship? When you have these thoughts, what emotion is coming up?
I don't even know if I can put an emotion to it, but it feels like I'm not like doing enough, if that makes sense. Like it almost feels like, oh, if you just tried harder, you would be in the same position kind of thing. I don't know if there's an emotion to put to that, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Have you ever seen the Wheel of Emotions before?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna pull it up for you. So this, I know it sounds super simple, but it was honestly a very useful tool for me gaining that relationship with myself to understand how my thoughts are affecting me and really putting a label on the emotion and sensation that's going through my body. So a lot of people call emotions energy in motion. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard that, yeah.
Yes. So basically, an emotion is a movement of energy inside your body. So your body is sensing everything. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you're really nervous and your stomach just like drops out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
anxiety. So that would be like the emotion is anxiety, and the sensation in your body is a feeling as if your stomach is rumbling and there's butterflies and there's an energy present
Mhm.
in your vessel. And
Yeah.
so that's something that I'm gonna kind of take you through. So let me
Okay.
share my screen so that you can see this. Can you see this wheel and can you read it well?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can see that. Oh, that's a lot.
Huh?
That's a lot.
Is it too far? I don't know what you see.
I can see it well enough.
So do you see the whole circle?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Okay. So let's just remind ourselves of the thoughts that are coming through. So it's, I'm not going fast enough. What are some of the other thoughts? Let's just send them
Um,
out.
like if I had just simply tried harder, I would be in that same position. And
Uh,
so it almost feels like I'm lazy in a sense.
okay.
I'm not, it's weird.
No, it's okay. This is the space where we unpack it, but we're not unpacking it with any judgment or
Yeah.
like it's totally valid that it's coming through. It's safe to admit what's happening, and we're just gonna hold it. We're gonna hold it just with a witness,
Yeah.
and not a judgment. We're just gonna see what's there, almost like a book. Like, what are the words on this
Yeah.
page? So that's the approach we're gonna have with it. So it's, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
I'm behind. Anything else?
I think you've covered it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why it resonated with most. Yeah.
Okay. So if we have those thoughts in mind, and I know you're not intentionally thinking them, no one is in a situation going, let me tell myself these thoughts.
Yeah.
It's very unintentional and it's not your fault. It comes from your environment. It comes from what you've been taught as a child. It comes from what you've been taught in school, societally. They're completely unintentional. So as these thoughts come through, let's start with the inner circle. Which of these would best describe the emotion?
I think fearful.
Okay, so fearful is what comes through first, and let's get a little more specific in here. If there's one that resonates, and if there's, we can stick with fearful.
I think definitely insecure.
Okay, insecure. And we can stop here or go a little further. I don't know if any of these resonate more or less.
Overwhelmed and inadequate. Yeah. I would lean towards more overwhelmed, maybe.
Okay. All right. So there's a sense of fear, a sense of insecurity, and then overwhelm.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just gonna have you, are you comfortable kind of closing your eyes and having me drop into your body with you?
Okay.
So we just close our eyes and ask our body when it's in a state of fear, when it's feeling insecure, when it's overwhelmed, are there any sensations that come through your body?
My stomach just feels really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want you to bring a loving witness to your stomach. Just witness it. Allow it to be there. It wants to be known. It wants to be seen. It wants to be understood. And we're going to hold that space for your stomach. Now, in that space of your stomach, is there any kind of movement? Is it still? Is it fast? Is it rumbling? Let's get a sensation there.
It's almost like this, just I almost like I'm holding my breath in.
So would you say it's like a contractive, like tight?
Yeah.
Tightness? Okay. Again, we're just witnessing this. It can be there. It's safe. It's not going to hurt you. It just wants to be known. So your stomach is feeling this tightness. Is there a temperature associated? Is it hot? Is it cold?
It's like an overheating, like you're in a room that's too hot and you're just like uncomfortable.
Okay. So there's even some more emotion there. There's discomfort. It's in a space where it's too hot and it's contracting. We're just going to keep going through the senses. So is there a color that's coming through? Or a visual?
No. Just feels like everything's too much. Like it's almost like I'm in a very busy environment at the same time. It's that overwhelmed thing again. Like it's just too much going on at once.
Okay. So your stomach is feeling like there's a lot going on inside of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to just hold space for what you see and what you feel. We're just going to breathe into it. And I want you to ask yourself, how does this energy want to move? Does it want to stay in this state? Is it just there so that it can be felt? Or is it asking to move differently?
It's definitely asking. I run away from the feeling. Is usually my reaction.
Okay. So just want you to witness it again. and ask your stomach as you see it contracting, as you see it being overwhelmed in this hot state, how does it want to move? What does it want to do? And we can take this very slow. We can be super gentle. We're not going to push it. We're not going to tell it it's wrong. We're just going to hold space for it.
The idea of holding space for it makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. What else comes through with that?
Almost like I shouldn't be thinking these things. I shouldn't have these feelings in terms of comparison. I shouldn't view others as better than myself because I feel like innately I know that, but I suppose sometimes your emotions would just never agree with what you truly know. And I just want to run from the feeling. Like I feel it and I'm like, okay, now let's find something else to distract us and just not delve into that any deeper.
Okay. I completely understand that. And that's part of the fear that comes through. So your fear is kind of getting triggered right now and it's wanting to run away.
Yeah.
And I think what we could do at this moment is actually let that fear know that it makes sense. I know right now we think you shouldn't be here. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be showing up. Something's wrong if you're here. So we need to act as if we don't see you, because then that means there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. What I want us to anchor into is that your fear makes perfect sense and it's completely valid. And notice that you can be with the fear and it can be there and actually you're okay. We're witnessing it right now. And you're in your room, you're in your space, surrounded by these four walls. You're here in this space with me. And you're actually noticing that your fear can be there and it can be okay. And this may be the first time that you've let that happen. And it can be very uncomfortable. And that discomfort can also be there. We don't need to change it. You're completely safe. Just keep breathing. A lot of times we think that we need to change the problem by judging it, but it's actually holding a space for acceptance that it'll actually heal. So we're just going to accept you exactly as you come and exactly as you are and everything that you're feeling, and just welcome it and invite it, because it's been asking to be seen for a while. Is there anything that comes up for you as you listen to me and as you hold this space for what you're experiencing?
I just noticed my body becoming more and more uncomfortable as you told me to just accept it. And like you can probably just hear me like fidgeting and shuffling because I just became so tight and tense. And I almost get the sensation that I'm just really small right now. I don't know, it's weird. I
No,
feel almost shrunken. Um it's a bizarre concept to me to even just accept that insecurity and fear is just not valid, because you know that other people probably have had the same experiences, but that doesn't change how I will ever think of it or experience it. It's almost like that relatability doesn't change or like change its power over me in any way. And yeah, I'm uncomfortable. But I kind of like it.
Okay. It's new, but I heard you say you kind of like it. So
Yeah.
there's something about this that your body's been wanting. But like I said, we're going to be so gentle.
Yeah.
If it's uncomfortable, we won't push it. We're just going to notice it.
So tense.
Now, as this feeling has grown in your body and you feel the tenseness, the discomfort, is there anything it wants you to know? Is there anything it wants to say to you?
To just let it pass and not fight it anymore. I almost feel like feeling the tenseness through my body. It's almost like the only thing I can compare it to is, when you wake up really achy and you just stretch and it just all goes away.
Yeah.
I feel like having the feeling manifest itself in my body, it's sort of reminding me I can just kind of do the same and just let it do what it needs to do and just go away rather than forcing it to, in a sense.
Yes, that is so beautiful. That is incredible awareness. So
Yeah.
notice that this tension, it wants to move through you. It's never been trying to hurt you or make you uncomfortable. It just wanted to be witnessed so that it can be felt and released. It's asking you to release it, but that's an active feeling. You have to feel the release.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and ask that feeling in your stomach that has grown into tension, how it wants to be released. And usually in my body, the way that my feelings want to be released can either be through movement, shaking, it can be through voice and sound, or it can just be through a visual of something going through your body. So do any of those resonate when you ask? And we can take some time to just sit with it. You don't have to answer immediately.
Well, for one, I've been wanting to just crack my neck because it feels like the tension is just right at the
Right at
nape.
your neck.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can bring our awareness there and just allow and welcome any movement that wants to come through your shoulders, your neck.
It's almost like my awareness of my body is just heightened.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's like it's so tense.
yes.
I would say movement. Not very much a voice. I don't feel like shouting, which is what I just correlated with voice when you said it, um, has been that much of an outlet for me. I feel like I talk enough already to voice my concerns and problems. So, but
Yes.
movement I feel has helped a lot recently.
Okay, then in this moment, as you sit here, let's just describe what your body is currently feeling and then ask it how it wants to move through your body.
I feel myself almost uncoiling, and I don't know if that's because of the stretching I just did or the fact that I have sudden feel tears just running down my face. But it just feels like I'm finally relaxing, and it's just leaving my body. That tightness in my stomach is gone now. All that's left is just the tightness in my neck. And you had mentioned shoulders, and I was like, I literally have my shoulders hiked all the way up to my ears, and I didn't realize.
Ah,
Um, so just like physically letting my body relax has somewhat just gotten rid of some of the tension. Uh,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like backing away anymore. It's kind of got not comfortable. It's still a bit uncomfortable, but I don't feel like running.
Okay, that's perfect. Then we can bring your attention to the shoulders, neck area, since it seems like that's where the emotion has moved to. And ask it if there's more it wants to release or if it's complete and this is the most that it can do at this moment. Because like I said, we're going to be gentle with it. We're not going to push it. We're not going to force it.
Mm. It's almost just dulled down to a dull ache. And I feel like that's just my state of being at this point. Um, yeah, I think that's enough for today.
Okay, that feels complete.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Perfect. Then I'm just going to have you take a deep breath in and move that breath to your neck, shoulders area. Hold it there. Take a deep breath out. And before you open your eyes, I just ask you to thank your body for this experience and for helping you feel this emotion that you're going through. You can slowly blink open your eyes.
Wow. That was a lot.
Yeah, you're totally safe. You can, what's coming through for you? What's coming up?
That I haven't taken the time to ever do that before. I don't know why. Yeah, that felt really nice.
Yes. Yeah. Are there any other thoughts that you have towards the experience?
It's almost like, not that I found a solution, but it's like if I now feel overwhelmed, the fact that I can just like tune in within and just acknowledge it and it'll go away instead of avoiding it, because the satisfaction I got from doing that is actually greater than I get from running away and avoiding it. And while it hasn't like particularly solved anything, I feel much better at the outcome than if I were to just like shut that emotion down and just distract myself, because I feel like distraction doesn't help. It just keeps coming up again and coming up again. But that was a good outlet. Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yes, and that is something that I've learned as well. Avoiding, we think that will, get rid of the issue or the problem, and it has served us very well. There have been so much benefit to avoiding, right? We got to avoid the discomfort of feeling that feeling, and that was worth it for a long time. But when you go through the cycle over and over again, then there comes a point where you're tired of the cycle and you want to try a different option where avoiding actually isn't serving you as much anymore. And now there's this new option to actually feel what you're going through. And that actually allows the release of that experience. Yeah. So what I actually just took you through is called emotional processing. So that's what it feels like to actually feel through your emotion. And a lot of people think I shouldn't be feeling this emotion, and I have to act as if that emotion isn't there because it isn't supposed to be there. But what if it's showing up actually because it is supposed to be there? It wouldn't be there if it wasn't trying to tell you valuable information. And so yes, that was the emotional processing. And you kind of hit it on the head. We're not actually changing you. I know a part of you is like, this part of me needs to change. I'm not supposed to be insecure. I'm not supposed to be fearful. I'm not supposed to be overwhelmed. I need to change this part of myself. But wanting to change is coming from a place of judgment and criticism. And we think that that's going to solve us or, get rid of the problem, but the judgment is part of the problem. Does that resonate?
Yeah. And it just even popped in my mind, the fact I kept saying it feels weird, but that's weird. And I was like, I would never have like caught onto myself saying that as a judgment, but then you'd mentioned something about judgment right after, and I was like, oh, I just did it again. It's just natural for me to just switch to that. I'm like, oh, I feel insecure, but like that's weird to think that, but it's not. And I should probably stop being so hard to myself. But that's much easier to say than it is to actually do.
Yes. So this emotional processing is also a form of you holding space for yourself exactly as you come and allowing yourself to be exactly as you are. And so you tell yourself, oh, my fear makes sense. My insecurity makes sense. This is a new environment. I'm around different people. We're doing different things in our lives. Comparison is naturally occurring. And when you compare, there tends to be some insecurity that comes through, that makes perfect sense. And I'm just going to feel you, and I'm going to allow you to be there without saying that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a practice. It's definitely a practice. And it's so weird because I know our mind thinks, no, if you accept it, then like the problem doesn't go away. But it's funny because when you accept it, that actually means there's no problem anymore.
Yeah, it almost started feeling like nothing was actually wrong. It was just what it was.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah.
Exactly. So then your body is no longer going through alert, alert, there's a problem. It now is going through the exact same situation. The mind isn't labeling it an issue anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's never usually the circumstance that's the problem. It's usually the thought we're placing onto the circumstance that's creating the experience.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. It's almost like it's not like there's the fact, but then it's what you think about the fact that makes it almost worse. Like, oh yeah, I don't know a lot of the things my course mates do, but like that by itself is just a fact. I'm still gonna learn it later on, but it's the feeling of am I not good enough because of that? That just made that 10 times worse.
Yes, you're right on it.
Yeah, because practically I know I will eventually catch up and I will eventually learn all the things that they already know. But right now it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel very practical in my head. It feels like there's something wrong with me for not knowing what they, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So exactly. So notice that what you make the circumstance mean about yourself or mean about others or mean about your environment is actually what creates the loop of experience that you're wanting to change. So what's beautiful is that the thought that you place or the meaning that you place is actually in your control.
Yeah.
So you get to be the one solving the issue. And it's not like you have to wait for the circumstance to change to feel better. You can actually just place a different thought, or rather than placing a different thought, you can accept the thought that's coming through and just feel it.
Yeah.
And then it actually tends to dissipate, and then you can feel a greater sense of safety.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Wow. This is going a lot differently than I thought it would. In the best way. Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I follow your Instagram, I listen to podcasts. I understand it's like a holistic approach, but I did not think I'd be on here crying. Like I really didn't think so. um but it's great. It's like we're not even talking about engineering, but how I actually feel towards it. And it's the degree that like you just neglect all skill. And that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to like think there's even more to it than like you're constantly studying, you're always trying to achieve the best grades. But then I think after my first semester and the absolute mess that ended up being, I just felt so drained. And
Yeah.
like I just didn't think I could continue, but I don't like to give up. So I was like, I might as well stick it out. And I was even like, I'll get the degree and I'll just do a different like job when I graduate, because that's really I felt towards at the time. I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started like researching, and I think that's around the time when I found your page, and I was just like, oh, there's actually like people that don't hate their lives while they're doing engineering. And I was like, I mean, I suppose I wouldn't hate it either if I just like actually took care of myself during the first semester. So I'd entered second semester and I was just kind of like, okay, at least one day when I don't do anything related to school, I need that to myself. But it wasn't actually feasible for me to do that. So I started taking like evenings out. And I remembered I would block off time in my schedule and I'm like, free, don't let anyone schedule you for anything for this. Just have free time. And that had really helped. I think it was just the balance bit. Once again, comparison that to that, you see everyone like studying, they're in the library, they're doing this, and you're just at home. And you're like, why are you not doing anything? But it's like, I'm not doing anything because I feel crippled. with anxiety and just feel like I'm not doing enough. And so I don't know if it was a horrible cycle. It was a horrible cycle. But second semester was way better. Was that actually someone learned how to cope with it all. And like it showed in my grades, which was surprising because I felt like I wasn't even studying enough at the time. But I think because my mental space was in a much better place, that my study was actually more worthwhile. Like I wasn't spending half of my study being like, why don't you know this? You should have done this earlier. It was more so like I was taking in information and I was actually able to concentrate better. So even though I studied for a shorter amount of time, I actually retained the information because that like almost mental block of always entering study sessions with like, you already don't know enough, so there's no point in studying this at all. It started to dissipate towards the end of the semester. And then I sat my exams and it did creep in during the exams, like, yeah, you didn't study that and you don't know what you're doing. But then I got my grades and I was like, how is this miles better than first semester? And I spent all of first semester studying so hard. But it was just crazy how that worked. So crazy.
Yeah. So right now, your brain has had a lot of evidence from being in the engineering environment that you need to self-neglect, that you need to prioritize academics above absolutely everything in order to be successful, that you need to mold yourself away from your personality and into what an engineer is supposed to be, right? So your brain has a lot of that belief from, again, past experiences, environments, situations. And for the first time, maybe, it's now realizing that it doesn't have to function from that belief. And it now has this piece of evidence of, ooh, when you had boundaries and when you took care of yourself and when you actually studied less, you were more successful. And so that might be a new thought, a new belief that's starting to form. But what I would say is like, really anchor that piece of evidence and build it and grow on it until that becomes the natural thought and belief that you have. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. So just hold on to the one thing I know to be true.
Yeah, because what'll happen is once it's happened once, then your brain starts to believe it. Maybe it's at like 20% belief or something, right? Like maybe 80% it believes it needs to be hard work. And then there's this 20% that's like, wait, we're starting to see that we can do this differently. There's a 20% belief there.
There is.
What happens is your brain now has that new 20% belief. And then from that thought, it can believe it can have like an emotion of confidence, an emotion of security, any kind of positive emotion that comes through. Then when you're in that state of emotion, you then take action that produces a result that strengthens that thought. So then it'll strengthen to 30%. And then you'll have another piece of evidence that you created and it'll strengthen to 40. So every single time you work from that belief, you end up giving yourself a piece of evidence that proves it true. And then it actually gets stronger and stronger. And that's why at the moment, maybe thinking it needs to be hard work and sacrifice, like you have a lot of past evidence and that's why it's so strong and you keep producing that over and over again. But now you've already kind of broken the cycle once, which means you can solidify this even further the more that you practice it. And that's why I really love coaching containers, especially for people that are in engineering, because this gets to be the space where you practice that being more and more true for yourself, especially when your environment is so saturated in stress and overwhelm. Like you need like an accountability container to really make sure, like, if I can't do this on my own, I can really have that space once a week with somebody where that gets to be true for me until it's true on my own. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's so transformative. It's so beautiful. And you've started the journey. You're actually so far ahead. Like the fact that you could go through this emotional processing so quickly, like you are so ready and you already have a lot of awareness of yourself and where you come through. And awareness is the first step to really growing into that person that you want to be. And so Yes, you're doing amazing.
Oh, it was even just the thing you said about like personality and like in engineering, and I was like, I've been doing that for the past like 3 months now,
Mm,
trying to you see what the people like. I always think of it like this: there's people that like entered engineering because it's all they've known their entire lives, and like I have role models. Like my father is an engineer, but he had never brought work home, so it was never that big of an influence in my life to be an engineer because my dad's an engineer. So it was more so I felt like I had no other options. So I didn't know what else I was good at. I was like, I'm good at science and maths, I might as well do it. And I had walked in and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm here now and we'll see how it is. And then I'm in the class full of people who have just wanted this their whole lives. And like their whole personality and lives are shaped around engineering. They're into cars, this. And I'm like, I just took a look back at myself and I was like, I don't have any engineering interests at all. And that's where the whole internship thing also came into hand. And I was like, I don't really enjoy coding. Like I've done it as a hobby in the past and I was like, I don't think it's for me. I could never like do it as a job. That was the way I was looking at it from. And it's come to the time where I'll have to choose which stream I want to go into. And I was like, if I have no interests whatsoever, it's almost I have no passions for it at all. Like, what am I even doing here? But
mm,
the thing is, every day I'm finding myself drawn to different things. And that's where my indecisiveness kicks in. And it's like, we're getting to the point we need to make a decision. You can't keep finding multiple different things you're into. And I think that's because I've never had the chance to explore it. And because I've never actually grown up with it, having so much choice now, it almost feels like I don't know which one to adopt into my personality in a way. Like which one to claim and be like, oh, that's my thing. And so that's why I'm doing this. Because everyone seems to have a reason. Like they're like, oh, I'm doing mechanical engineering because I really want to build cars. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I like everything and I don't know which one to choose. But that personality thing is really accurate because now that I think about it, everyone that I compare myself to, I could say they've been an engineer since birth, and like that's not me. So it wouldn't be fair for me to compare myself to them at all. But that's you never really heard personality and engineering in the same sentence. Now that I think about it, but yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so a question I have just as you describe that is it necessary to make engineering your whole life and personality in order to be an engineer?
That's a question I would like to say no to, but I know that would be lying to myself
Mm,
because to me it should be. It's the only thing that would make sense to me that I'm a successful engineer because that's all I know. And I'm into all these STEM activities and that's just a me thing. I don't know how to explain it. It almost feels like it has to be part of me. Like you hear my name and oh yeah, she's an engineer. She's really big on all these engineering things. But then it's like, oh yeah, she's an engineer, but like she has no engineering interests. That it doesn't make sense in my head for that to be me, but like it is. So I don't know. I would like to say no, but that would be a lie. So
mm. Yeah, so I would explore options or examples of people who happen to be an engineer, but it's not everything about who they are. And there are so many examples of people where it's like, it's just a part that they play and perform and do, but it isn't who they are. And there's a detachment in that where it's like, I can be an engineer, but that's not my only form of self.
yeah.
And I would argue that um, you can be an engineer without it needing to be absolutely everything about yourself. And there are people that are doing it. And I think it's just exposing your brain to those examples so that you can believe what you want to believe, which is that you don't have to be only that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the little homework that I'll leave you with, exploring examples where what
Yeah.
you want to believe to be true. So what you want to believe is that I get to be myself, whether I'm 100% interested in engineering or not, and I just get to be an engineer, even if that's not, everything about who I am. And I promise you there are examples of people like that. I actually just interviewed a woman named Emily, who is like a professional salsa dancer. She's also like a huge health equity activist, and she's going to medical school. And she totally talks about like bringing yourself and who you are to your STEM degree, and not the other way around, where you're like, who do I have to change to be in STEM? And I think that's like a first example that I would put in your path to start actually rooting the belief that that is true.
She sounds like a boss. I was like, and med school? It's still going? Wow, okay.
Yeah, and you get to do that. You get to have other interests outside of engineering. You get to be yourself and love all these other preferences and ideas and concepts that don't have to do with analytics and math and science. And you can still do the job of an engineer while also having all these other parts to yourself.
Yeah.
So, yes, this was amazing. I can't believe it, but our time is up.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I just want to ask, out of everything that we've gone through today, what is the top takeaway that you have?
The emotional processing. I don't think I made enough, actually, the identification. Like when you asked me to put words to the emotion and I saw those words and what they led to, I was terrified. But I think I'm going to try to do that a little bit more. I've heard Oprah talk about it, I think, and it was just like putting words to the emotion. Actually, you would think it gives them power, but it kind of just be like, it just lets you like settle with them. Like, that is what I'm feeling. And you make me realize that's okay. And like, you've almost given me like a coping mechanism almost. Especially when like I'm in those like anxious situations and very overwhelmed, to just like sit down, just go within instead of distracting myself once again. But yeah, definitely the emotional processing was very, very interesting. I've never done that before.
Yes. I do want to leave you with, if the avoidance does happen, because it is natural and it is a coping style that you've gotten used to, instead of saying, I shouldn't be avoiding this, or oh my God, I'm avoiding and that's bad, I should go within. I would actually also meet that with an understanding. Just notice when it happens and say, oh, I'm coping right now. That means that there's an emotion coming through. Am I ready to feel it, or do I still need to cope? Like, so just really being your own compassionate coach while you're going through that. Would be very helpful. So it's okay if you still avoid, or if you still, end up in the cycle and in the loop. It's just, as it happens, how can you talk to yourself? Oh, I'm avoiding. That's okay. I'm protecting myself from fear. Am I ready to feel it? Can I process it? If not, that's also okay. But I'm not like stuck in the loop. I've actually kind of been a witness of the loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Beautiful. So
thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for trusting me and for, signing up. I really love offering to be a coach to other women in STEM, because that's what I've gone through, and I just want to send everybody all the tools that I know and have helped myself with. So I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. It was so lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, likewise. I will keep in touch with you.
Thank you. Good
Bye.
luck with everything.
You too.
Bye.
And so it is. Thank you for tuning in to the Engineer Podcast with Jen Reynoso. I hope you're leaving here feeling a lot more aligned to take inspired action. Now be sure that you stay connected and never miss the exact episode that was meant for you by subscribing to the podcast wherever you listen to it, as well as subscribing to the Engineer email list. Go to www.engineerpodcast.com. That's engineer with a Jen, and you know exactly why. I hope to hear from you soon, STEMmy. Bye for now.